The Way of Will John.
But what was so interesting to me was the mouth breathing aspect and the differences in mouth breathing and nasal breathing, and the massive differences in the efficiency that come through consistent nasal breathing, or the horrible effects that can possibly come from consistent mouth breathing.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you can maybe just explain that for people, because that's kind of one of those things that either most players, most athletes have either never heard any information on it, or two, if they have heard some information, it's maybe like, it doesn't matter, just get the air in, get it out, whatever. When you breathe, just run, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or oxygen is what we want, and with the mouth is bigger, so you can take in more oxygen. But it's like saying, oh, I have my car here, let's give it more fuel and it will go better. No, it won't. It needs the right amount of fuel. And the nose is our fine-tuned instrument to give us the right amount of oxygen and actually keep the balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide. And that's one of the key things I talk about. When we have a tendency to breathe a little bit too fast, a little bit too shallow, like many people do, including people when doing physical activity, we upset the oxygen carbon dioxide balance, where we lower the carbon dioxide pressure in our body. And that closes up our body, because carbon dioxide has a widening, relaxing effect on the airways, a widening and relaxing effect on the blood vessels. So the airways will open up when you slow down your breathing. The blood vessels will open up when you slow down your breathing, and then maintain more of the carbon dioxide produced in your body. So anyway, the study that James talked about in his book that we did at Stanford, we blocked our nose for 10 days so we could only breathe through our mouth, 10 days and 10 nights. And it was really, I shouldn't say horrible, but I would prefer not to do it again. I noticed I was like I did a time journey. I went back to my old life where I was more stressed out. I started to, we measured tons of things, including adrenaline. So my adrenaline went up by threefold, I think. And my sleep got really, really bad. I woke up, I went from no snoring at all to about 3 hours per night. We filmed ourselves when we slept. We recorded our sound. And I was dry like a desert in my mouth. And over these 10 days, my sugar cravings increased a lot, from not at all to being to 7 to 8 from a scale from 1 to 10. So the last 4 days, I had pizza and beer and ice cream and chocolate. And I'm kind of healthy, so I don't eat much of that. So it was really a huge difference. I guess my body needed to compensate because the lack of sleep, the poor sleep, the lack of deep sleep. So it was really an interesting experience. And
wow, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's an incredible study and something to, because I think before having heard that at all, I don't think I was a consistent mouth breather, but I definitely would take some time. I would catch myself on the field, right? Yeah. You catch yourself. And I remember having a discussion with you about the switch. And when you finally just kind of make this switch to do it, kind of feels awkward at sometimes, especially when you're really pushing. And I know I remember, some of the discussions that we had with it is not to get so obsessed with it that you realize that you never take that breath out of your mouth, maybe that it happens, but it's the fact that you consistently breathe through your nose is that you're getting the benefit. What I find crazy though, in some of the studies that have been listed and I've seen all over, is they did a study with I think it was cyclists, right? That had the ability to, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you know the study, but something along the lines where with nasal breathing, they were like, what is it, 30 times more efficient? I don't know, 10 times, 20 times. I can't remember necessarily, but incredibly more efficient. Just with nasal breathing. What was that?
I've done a couple of studies myself with 10 people each time. And I mean, if we just cover the basis, what the nose does, it is that it warms the air, humidifies it, and cleans a lot of the bacteria and the viruses and other particles in the air. And if we consider the fact what researchers tell us, that we inhale about a billion particles, 100 billion particles a single day. And imagine taking that in through the nose, where most of it is trapped in the nose, or taking it in via the mouth. So mouth breathing means that the air presented to the airways and lungs, it's cold and dry and full of these particles. So they get irritated, they get inflamed, and when that happens, swelling occurs. So that means we get narrow airways. And when we have narrow airways, adrenaline will rise. There was a study showing that when they lowered the carbon dioxide, which we do when we start to breathe faster, because the narrow airways means that we need to compensate. So we push the gas pedal and increase our breathing rate. And in that study, they showed a 360% increase in adrenaline, because if you are allergic to nuts, for example, and you eat it by mistake, you get an anaphylactic shock. And if you come to the hospital, you will get an adrenaline shot, right? Because adrenaline has the ability to open up your airways. So when they are narrow, you increase the stress hormones. Also the same with cortisol, and those are the main ingredients in asthma medication. Asthma means we have narrow airways, so they contain either adrenaline or cortisol. The adrenaline increases the airways, and the cortisol reduces the inflammations that occurs in the throat with mouth breathing. So that way to help the airways keep open, but by reducing the inflammations. But the thing is, there is a risk then that we get too excited, right? We make mistakes because we are too stressed. We are too much in fight flight. We should, of course, be alert and focused on and concentrating when we're doing our activity. But it seems like a lot of us, we go over that threshold. And then when we are too stressed, we get tense, and then our muscle doesn't work too well. So we use up way too much energy. So the studies I have done, in one of them, it was really interesting. We were cycling, or the participants were cycling, and we were measuring their pulse and their lactic acid levels. And one of the results was a guy who's super fit. He used to have the Swedish record in triathlon Ironman distance. It was 8 hours, 42 minutes, I think, or 24 minutes, but a lot of exertion. And his pulse, when we compared the same BAT level on the bike, his pulse with mouth breathing was 155, and with nasal breathing only 139. And for such a fit guy, that's a huge difference.
Right. Massive. Yeah, especially extended out over a long period of time.